You didn't.
The chamber.
Do we have the chamber here?
It's okay. It's okay.
Is the chamber?
Nope, they're not here yet.
I guess we won't get started.
The next one, yes, we can. Yeah. So. Yes. Right. After.
Interview. Oh, it's the 2. 3 hours. So it's gonna be. This is it. It's going to do. I'm excited. Awesome.
There you go, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, the chamber is here now.
That's
Nice. Get him in.
He's in. He just needs to turn on his camera.
Most dry.
Hey, there we go. Oh my gosh, what a horrible glare. Move this way. Okay, it's better. Hi, everybody. Okay, gonna share screen here. Let's see, which one is it? Okay, you should be seeing. Okay, think I see what you're seeing. You should all be seeing 11 Worth Chamber of Commerce logo. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me kick it off. Let me start with some fun stuff. Our new welcome center. We got the front door, as you can see. Beautiful view looking out across the front street from the vantage point of where the front counter will be. And you can see there that the flooring is stacked. And in this picture, you can see it to the right side going. So by the week's end, the flooring should be in place. We're still set to have that opening on July. Kind of, if I'm sorry, July, I meant January. MLK weekend. Hopefully we could do a big opening ceremony. Is the hope, but y'all know how construction works. Moving on to October footfall data. Starting in late August, we've been seeing, as you can see, little declines here and there. April, we were up. January, still the benefit of having New Year's weekend fall into the new month there. So that's why that's so high. But as you can see, September and October, we were about 25 to 30%. Quite a bit of fall off. Good news for us is that we had Oktoberfest, that we have these type of events that other communities do not have going on to help our retailers and restaurants. But as you can see, this is from our LAP meeting today. It is the BC car volume and the total volume coming across. And as you can see for BC, just in September was a 40% reduction. We saw a 60% reduction in ticket sales to Canadians. So that is having an impact on our footfall. But there's also many other factors, especially in September, that came to play, like a month full of smoke, those kind of things. But one of the things that the LAP committee talked about is some course correction, and for 2026, going even more into back to our drive markets, reinvesting and retooling some of the drive markets, Boise, Portland, of course, the Seattle metro area, and pulling out some of our flight markets that we've been dabbling in, with the exception of Phoenix, which is an amazing destination for us. They stay a long time. They spend a lot of money. So they're one of the best flight markets that we have. Another reason that we want to stay in Phoenix is over finding out that the Chelan County is wanting to pull out of any flight markets. I've been told to pull out of LA. So that leaves nobody doing any flight markets for Leavenworth, Chelan County, or Washington, with Washington State Tourism's budgets only being 1.5 million next year. They won't be doing any advertising. So that's a little bit about the state of that. More to come. But like I said, luckily we do have Christmas Town, something, a lot of communities are scrambling, trying to find something to attract people, especially those closest to the border. I was recently asked to provide some information for a Wenatchee World article that might be forthcoming. And one of the questions was, what is, how does tourism impact December, and how does it make it different from other communities? So I pulled a little data by going to the Department of Revenue site, and for the fourth quarter of 2024, these are the taxable amounts made by other communities, somewhat similar to us. Roslyn had 7 million in total taxable retail amount. Ritzville, 16 million, Cashmere, 21, Forks, 23, Ocean Shores, 44, Cle Elum, 47, Chelan, 63, and Leavenworth, 100 million. So when you're looking at other communities that are similar in size, similar in that they're not fringed by a bunch of car dealerships and things like that, you can really see what kind of an economy we've built through the Christmas lights on trees. Okay, next thing, typically at this meeting, I would be presenting to the council in preparation of our contract, but I do not have a draft contract yet from the city. And this is for, what I'm showing here is actually the LTAC budget for next year. So luckily, I'm in it, which does ease a little bit of fear. But one thing that I've always wanted to point out, and I pointed out today, is that we're listed as advertising chamber, and not one dime of that money is spent on advertising. And so because this is a public document, a lot of people like to add up LAP and chamber and then say, that's how much money the chamber spends on advertising. And I don't know how many times I've had to debunk that. But for the 2026 budget that I've drafted, this is what the city's lodging tax amount that the chamber would receive would be spent. The biggest portion of the budget would be personnel, wages, taxes, and benefits, followed by Christmastown and Oktoberfest, our two biggest economic impact events of the year. And then the rest is made up Welcome Center operations, the Bavarian Closet, Mayfest, Winter Carnival, and 20,000 goes to paying the entertainers who play live music throughout the summer in the gazebo. So hopefully more to come on that. And lastly, I wanted to share that this is the tentative, hopefully coming out within a week or two. This is our new trip to Bavaria that will happen in September of 2026. 2 nights built into experience Munich Oktoberfest, and 2 nights at the end in Vienna to experience Vienna's Oktoberfest. And in between Garmisch, Innsbruck, and Salem See, the opportunity to see a cattle drive where they take the cows grazing up in the high meadows. A big pomp and circumstance had a parade and events is made to bring them to the lowlands. So part of the itinerary would participate in that as well. And that is all I have for you guys tonight. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Comment?
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you, Troy. Kevin, did you have anything you want to add?
Me?
Yeah, you. I'm assuming you're here because of the chamber.
I would like to come in and check out.
You
I just got back from Hawaii, our daughter got married on the beach. so
Oh.
we're trying to check out everything. I'm just.
Oh,
The next year,
okay.
actually, keep on the-
Uh-huh.
I'm glad to see the city still. On smooth second. Good job, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. And he vanishes. All right, the next is the Osborne covered area discussion. You know, we got.
Mike Bedard was joining, he's not here.
Not here.
So this was added at the request of Mike Bedard. Sorry.
Ben is here.
So apparently, I'll give some background. The decision was made by staff to close the covered area of the Osborne sometime in 2023. And it was closed because of vandalism. Almost every window back there has been broken. We put in cameras, we were seeing drug deals going down. It was just general abuse. It was a place for kids to hide. So the decision was made to fence it off to stem the vandalism and abuse and drug use and graffiti. City staff has used it for storage. We stored I think the lockers from the old bathhouse are still there. All the decorative cans that we replaced with the big belly solar compactors are stored there. And at some point over the years, Autumn Leaf asked if they could store their float there, work on their float there, which we gave them permission to do. They lost their place at Project Byron's property during the whole Oktoberfest rollout. So there's been a request made to Councilmember Bedard to reopen that area for community use. And that's the purpose of this discussion.
So Ben, you can go ahead and come up and present if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, right there. And I'll put your thing up I'll put it on Zoom so everyone can see it.
So my name is Ben Paul. I'm a resident and I have 3 children, and I'm also on board of the Lebanon Soccer Club. Coached soccer for a long time in the community, and so I'm here kind of representing both as a community member, but also as a board member for the soccer club. And I'm here with Jamie Lamb. She's our president of the soccer club. And so our proposal for the space would be to convert it into an area that could be used recreationally year round for field sports, and it would require turfing the space, laying artificial turf down. And so kind of our rationale for it is that we did some looking at statistics, and there's about 840 students in the Cascade School District between ages kindergarten through 8th grade. And at least 60% of them play soccer, whether it's through the Leavenworth Soccer Club, through our spring and fall seasons, or through middle school soccer, or through select soccer, summer camps. So we believe it is by far the most participated sport among youth in our community. Yeah, for 5 to 6 months out of the year, there is nowhere in Leavenworth where you can play soccer because it's too wet to play on the fields. And the indoor space that we do have is all within the school's control. And so it's very difficult to get indoor field or indoor gym access if you're a member of the general public. So the other thing that happens is that the fields become, there's a lot of demand for the field usage once the fields dry out. The fields get used a lot, and I don't know if you have noticed or if you play soccer, kids who play soccer, Leavenworth used to have among the best fields in the region from a soccer perspective. And every year they get worse and worse because of the use and the overuse of the fields. So we are proposing that a covered turf field is the simplest solution to be able to provide a space where we play year round. This not just for soccer, but for any kind of field sport that needs that service. So the other things that this kind of shows in here is that if you want to slow down just a little bit, it calls out that the property's been vacant for a long time. There's also a community desire for public indoor recreational space. This would be a way to use just that covered area and potentially be a way to open up part of that facility to the community without needing to go through some of the hoops of converting indoor space, some of the challenges with the aging structure of that building. And so what we're asking to the council is feedback on this idea, how it complements or complicates any existing plans that are in place for the Osborne property. If there's support for it, a commitment to making the space available and then rehoming the existing uses of that space, determining the cost, feasibility to mitigate any compliance or safety needs for the use of that outdoor space, And kind of whether as a city property, how would it be used? Would it be free public use? Would it be something people would pay for, et cetera, et cetera? And the club, the Lebanon Soccer Club, is committed to researching, figuring out what the cost would be to turf the area. We already kind of have a ballpark of what we know it costs, and fundraising to secure the money needed if this was something that the city wanted to move forward with, as well as applying for any grants or funding that we have options to do. So we're not asking the city to pay for it necessarily. We just want to be able to leverage that space to provide a place for primarily our kids to be able to play when it's too wet and cold to go on.
Questions, comments? Yep.
I have a few questions. Is Peshastin someplace that you can't use? Just wondering.
You cannot use it because the gym was named with the siding on the inside the gym that they have deemed is unusable for soccer balls to hit. So we, in conjunction with multiple Leavenworth Soccer Club and the Select Club that wants to use it and multiple, we did file for a grant to fix that siding. So there's a potential. And also think about it that it took a month and a half of me trying to get indoor space. And the high school soccer players got one evening from 8 p.m. to 9:30, 1 day a week, right? Which is pretty late, which takes anybody who lives in outside areas won't make that. Or, right, then that's pretty late for a high school kid. So it is limited, the space. And it is positive, you have more kids playing basketball and volleyball, right? So it's not I would not say it's bad, but I also say that soccer bridges a lot in our community. It bridges multiple different ethnicities together. It's a pretty joint type of a community, and we see it from the 40 Leavenworth adults that play from 6 to 7 a.m. Twice a week, from all the little kids and hundreds of kids coming to play in the summertime for kidder kicks. So just having an area that would be open. We also have been investigating whether we could make it a turf field that was shorter so that it could potentially add pickleball lines in it so that it could do both in that space, which is possible. It wouldn't be perfect pickleball, but it could, right? You can just make a tighter one so the balls would bounce and different things like that so that you could open it up and it could be a more community.
I don't want you to think that I'm against it at all. My 6 kids played every sport there was, so I get it. I wondered, would the city staff have to maintain it, the parks crew?
Thinking about maintenance, it would be self-supported, right? The field turf is good for 20 years, about 20 years before you have maintenance costs. So I don't see how that would be, depending on the vandalism, that word, and how much of a problem that was, thinking about the amount of lights potentially would be needed to curb that, potentially, if you're talking broken windows, what do we need to do for that? Like, that is potential, we haven't really gotten deep into those costs, but maybe that would be an addition that you should do so that we could minimize those kind of issues as well.
So would it be that the cement would need to be dug up and then okay,
Lay it right on.
let's lay it right on it.
I think what Sharon might have meant, but too by maintenance is like cleaning it, like actually like who's gonna be taking care of it, like when it gets dirt, garbage, who's gonna be picking up garbage and all that stuff. I mean, pet stuff.
Trash, leaves.
Yeah,
Corn.
Is it like a rubber surface?
It's
Or is
like
it like grass?
artificial plastic based, like big grass,
Yeah.
and it has rubber balls in it. But maybe you would have some kind of fencing around it, so it would be I'm gonna think it's gonna be minimal, right? If you have some type of fencing around, so the person would probably have to open some type of gate, go in with their dog, like
Right.
you're gonna have water bottles and stuff. But I wouldn't see it being any worse than anywhere else in the community, like outside of Osborne. Is someone walking around picking up all that trash? I haven't seen much.
There is some minor maintenance the turf itself requires to keep it, or extend its life, I guess. So you do occasionally have to brush it, sweep it, kind of keep it level to keep the part of the rubber particles that are in it spread evenly. The fact that the area is covered, so it's not exposed to rain, it's not exposed to much sun, would greatly extend the life of the material itself. I would hazard to guess that the vandalism in there was likely caused due to the fact that the space was not being used for anything. I think if you had a reason for people to be there, that at least during almost every evening of the week, I could imagine that there'd be something happening there. So you remove this like safe, dark haven where people might have gone to for those kind of activities before. So it would be a way to use it for that. I think like Jim's saying, three sides of it are already covered, right? So maybe that's the open side. There's some form of low fencing there to just kind of mark it as a fourth boundary, as a fourth side. But other than that, it would be no different to any other field space that is currently out there, or the tennis courts, for example, that are there. I think they might be owned by the school. I don't know if they're this or not, but yeah, that's definitely something that would have to be considered as who's responsible for it, but.
I'd like to see what Shelby has to say because, you guys found all the love spots, so to speak, and everything going on. Would that just continue and then you guys would have to clean up every day or every week?
The reason that we fenced it off was because of the rampant vandalism and people were also breaking into the building through that area. Once we secured that space and then put the cyber locks on the building, we stopped having break-ins into the building. If we were going to move forward with this, and this is a council's decision, I would recommend that all the windows get covered with plywood.
Right.
Because a ball is going to break a window if a kid doesn't purposely break a window, and that would prevent anybody from entering into the building.
How does this dovetail with our future plans
Yeah.
for the entire Osborne property, redevelopment and community center we plan to develop? Does this complement the plan or is it conflicting?
If the council wanted to reopen this area for community use, it would be for a short duration of time, assuming that the community center, library, swimming pool project moves forward. So we don't have a solid timeline on that. We need to get the PRSA board on board with that plan tomorrow. And once that's done, we already have a job description ready to go to float, to hire someone to drive that project forward. My anticipation would be that we would be under construction hopefully within 3 years for this facility. If we can get all of our ducks in a row, get the public facilities district passed, expand the PRSA boundary, and get the fundraising done. So I would caution allowing someone to spend a large sum of money on a turf surface for a use that might not continue beyond a few years.
Right. Yeah.
I saw two high school boys climb over the fence the other
I'm
day.
sure that happens.
So they are still going back there, maybe just not breaking windows.
Ben, if this gets built, I imagine, especially in the wintertime months, this would be a valuable commodity for Leavenworth soccer clubs to practice and the like. I see on here that one of the commitments would be that the priority would be given to LSC for LSC organized or sanctioned activities. Spitballing here over the wintertime months, what kind of demand do you see for select and traveling clubs to use that? I mean, would you see that in use every night during the wintertime months for practice, since it would be literally the only place in town to practice?
I don't think it's out of the question to say that. I think if you take out the Christmas period when school was in session.
Right.
then yes, I mean, of most of the select clubs now over the winter, they buy for the indoor space, the limited indoor space that's here, or they're traveling to towns, to Wenatchee, Kashmir, to practice. So I wouldn't say, would it be used from like 5 to 10 every night? I don't know, but I'd be surprised if there is an activity in there every night. Whether it's organized activity, like people practicing, like you say, clubs, or just people going and using it because would literally be the only outdoor space where they can do anything. Yeah, especially when there's snow on the ground. The only other thing I'd say with the turf is that turf is movable. So you can put it down, and if in 3 years the space is going to be repurposed for something else, you can pull it up and you can move it somewhere else. So it's not a permanent installation. So besides so the turf and goals or anything like that, all moved elsewhere. So the only lost expenditure would be on any plywood or anything like that they use to secure the actual space.
So you've been to the space, right? I'm looking at the pictures.
The space, you say?
You've been to the space?
Oh, in
You
the space.
visited?
Yeah, he's been in space too.
I mean, I've been to space. So, and I played soccer my whole life. I played indoor soccer and gymnasium floors at colleges, high schools, turf and really cool arenas. I mean, like really cool. You've seen all the soccer field iterations. So I'm just curious, first of all, look at the space. I can see this wouldn't be a whole lot of fun. There's big girder. I mean, it's not, you're gonna have to build a boundary, like an arena, like a field, like an indoor, a legitimate indoor field. Do the measurements of this space accommodate a regulation like indoor soccer field? If it were having the boundaries, curved walls in the corners?
I don't know to what age it would be regulation, and you have to.
I think it fits more of like a 5v5, 6v6.
Yeah.
Like a little bit smaller than,
Yeah.
right, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I think. Indoor soccer is 6v6. Okay, so it'll come at that. Short net. So I see the space, I see this Osborne as a community center, and I did receive an email from Andy Day, who's been in our community for a little bit. And there's people, the pickleball people, you mentioned pickleball, play every morning, 8 a.m. till whenever, 7 days a week, 15 people on average, like it's a pretty big community of pickleballers in the morning. I don't think it interferes with this. I think they would say shaving it down and having a thin turf isn't the answer for pickleball, right? That doesn't equal, that wouldn't satisfy them. And looking at this as a community space, like I was saying about the iterations of gymnasium floors and different surfaces, and not spending a lot of money, but doing this flooring with tape, with lines for a community where other sports can play on this with less money. Seems like it would be maybe in the best interest of the community. Like I said, there's a community of people that want pickleball courts. I mean, they've been sharing it with the tennis courts. The pickleball, we all chipped in, paid $200 to buy a net because the school district wouldn't buy a net. Like we bought a new tennis net for the I mean, these guys, the pickleballers care too, and they want a covered space. And so I just would, I'm wondering about, again, turf. You're kind of, are you stuck on turf? I mean, you want this space. Is a nice a flooring with lines.
I think from our perspective, from the soccer club's perspective, turf is a far preferable surface to any hard surface, whether it's a gymnasium, whether it's a TV. That's not to say you can't play soccer on those surfaces, but in terms of how that then transfers to playing on grass, and also just from a safety perspective, turf is far superior. So I mean, are we against a different surface? I think our primary objective would be just, can we use the space? Can we open up the space so that it's available?
Okay.
I think that I think it would be interesting to look at numbers and participants in terms of how many people, whether it's all the way down through preschoolers, all the way up to our eldest residents, like how many people are participating in soccer, baseball, field sports where turf would be a real benefit to to pickleball or other sports which would prefer a harder surface. You know, and I think the challenge is that you theoretically could play a sport that requires a hard surface anytime that hard surface doesn't have snow on it, which is a very short time in the year in Leavenworth. You can play, you can play basketball at Alpine Lakes most of the year except when it's just snowed. Whereas that's not the case for a sport that requires a field.
So you brought up basketball. So with a hard surface, we could put a basketball hoop in here.
There's already one in there. That's where people have played for decades.
Great. When we put turf down, that changes the dynamic of
Oh,
basketball.
sure.
So now we're limiting it. We're really heading towards a soccer only kind of space.
Any field sport, yes, any sport that usually is on field, is that term, so soccer.
Yeah.
Football.
You mentioned safety. So I see 6 steel vertical girders extended from the wall. I mean, that's probably more unsafe than like turf versus like epoxy floor, right? I mean, that's pretty, when you're running, I mean, like, are you talking about doing boundaries and walls and barriers? This is really, really aggressively dangerous here.
Some of if the project is gonna go through in 3 years, we probably curb some of that of how, right, the type of fencing. Because of probably the cost of fencing outside, that's kind of like curveball in the medium curveball, but I do look at, you can, under the covered area, Alpine Lakes has a basketball court. Underneath the cover, they have the 2 and then they have the 1, so they have a covered area. Why don't you just make a pickleball lines under that covered area would work? So I do look at that there
Or
are,
a school district.
I'm not sure what, remember that.
I'm just saying that there is potential space for basketball and pickleball in other areas.
We're talking about this one though, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about this one? There's room for both?
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Well, no, I know, I wanted to respect the agenda and I know that Andy's been waiting for some time to speak.
Thank you, and sorry, I'm joining remote tonight for the Leavenworth Soccer Club that I haven't met. I'm Andy Zontek Baxter, I'm the Public Works Director, and I'm not feeling very well, so I'm just joining remote tonight. But I did just want to point out a couple of things. I'm not an expert on this property, but some of the items that my team have brought to my attention that I just want to share with the council as well. It sounds like in the winter that roof has historically shed snow, and there's been some concern with that sliding and closing off access to that because of the snow coming down off the roof. Again, I haven't looked at this myself. It was just something brought to my attention. And then recently the leaking roof there was brought to my attention as well. So I don't think it would be a perfectly dry space. I think if it's something that we're wanting to invest in, it's things we could work around, but it's really just depending on how much money the council is wanting to dedicate to this or that the soccer club would come up with. And then a couple other quick items I just noted. As you're talking about evening access, and then also like Selby touched on with the security piece, we would want lights there from a public works perspective, and cameras as well, just so we have, we can monitor that space and make sure people aren't damaging our building. And then as far as the maintenance question that Sharon brought up earlier, unless we had a written agreement, the assumption, because that is city property, is that would be on city staff. So my recommendation would be that we would have some sort of agreement with the soccer club if they're the ones providing the turf or maintaining the turf, whatever that looks like, so that it's not on our parks crew who doesn't have experience with that turf to do maintenance.
Right.
But just a couple of quick thoughts I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
I wanted to ask you, how would you, the deal of the uprights? How do you deal with that? Like your kids aren't gonna run into that? You got some way to protect them from that, or that was one question. What was your thinking? Because I know they're there and you've looked at it, so how are you gonna deal with that?
You mean the roof
No.
structure?
No, the uprights, no, the roof,
Yeah.
the steel beams that are in.
I was thinking of turning it and having that be the outside boundaries.
So you're
But
playing.
I'm not an expert on it.
Yeah, so you're gonna like playing just, what I guess I'm saying is, you must be thinking that there's got when they're going down this little field, they're not gonna hit anything because it's all open and those uprights are outside the boundaries. However you set the field up.
Yes, but I think you would also need to take some caution that you would need to block. I've seen kind of, like anytime you do lighting poles on fields, they always block them with like pads that go.
Yeah, right.
Right,
Sure.
so we would need to do something like that just because they're kids.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It's
and
off the
so-
field, but they could go into it, so you
Yeah,
gotta
so
protect them for that.
all of that we would have to do all of that.
Yeah. I'm thinking that from my perspective, the soccer pressure far outweighs anything else. Because we have a whole school district of kids. We have pickleball players, but I don't see that as a factor for us as far as providing for them in this, underneath this service. I think if we're gonna provide, if we go with this, it's primarily you put down a turf and it would be for soccer, basically, in the winter. One of my questions is, who does the scheduling? Is that all, you're taking that on also? Like scheduling groups and all that kind of stuff that,
Yeah, I figured it could be something pretty casual. I think it could be a Google Sheets or something like that for teams. They could sign up casually and you could open it up to select or, whoever wanted to play. And I think you wouldn't have that much need that you're gonna have people erasing and writing over it, that it would really need a deep oversight. I wouldn't see that because I see it more as a practice kind of space or like, right, more for a fun, small sided games, things like that. But I'd also see that it would relieve some of the other areas that I think.
Yeah.
Just
right? You said you had a ballpark figure? Kind of a ballpark figure on the turf?
Yeah, so probably somewhere between 50 and 60,000 for turf. There's some saving by the fact that the surface is already flat and concrete, you're not like putting it onto dirt.
Right.
And so that's the turf itself, then goals and again, any protective pads or anything that we need, fencing on top of that. So yeah, there's the biggest investment would be the turf. So that would come in at around that figure, we think.
Right.
Has someone looked at it to like the turf people and said, this is level, we don't need to fill these voids here, we're gonna build this up here, it drains
We
well.
haven't gone
like-
that far. We didn't want to go too far down that path that we had this meeting.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering where the 50,
Yeah, so we haven't looked at it.
Two quick questions. Are we moving the covered area to Public Works? We talked about that at one time.
It was a recommendation by ARC Architects that did the fatal flaws analysis for the partial demolition that we could potentially move this covered area over to Public Works to have more coverage for our equipment. That wouldn't happen until we did a demolition, if that.
Okay, other question or last question. The snow on top of it does, like Andy said, it slides the whole side of the pool, of the building, where the windows are for the lunchroom. And kids are not allowed to go in that area to get a ball, even because of the snow that, there's more snow that can slide. So I just wanted to mention that.
It doesn't cover that whole area is the thing.
Well, they.
Leaves that opening.
The opening is at least as wide as possibly two of these tables, and the snow slides all the way down. And we
Down
get-
into the covered area.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a gap
Yeah.
on the south side of it.
So the kids are not allowed to go, if a basketball or something, they're playing out there, goes there, they're not allowed to go to that area and get it. Some, the lady that, or the man that's watching group.
These are some photos that Andrea took.
Oh, good,
In
yeah.
preparation of this. So you can see that this was, what did you take, what day did you take these photos? Do you remember?
October 31st.
Okay, Halloween. So we did have a rainy period, but you can see the amount of puddling that's happened. The cleared area, with the area where there is no coverage, is over here where all these weeds are growing. See, they're getting sunlight, so it's not covered all the time. It also sheds snow towards the field. You can see the way this roof is
That's where the
pitched.
opening, yeah.
So just a couple more things to consider.
There's still one way to it's pretty common in many other countries that you have these spaces that are used for turf fields. Less so in the US because soccer isn't as established here. But the really common way of dividing it is using almost, think of like a curtain, like a large curtain, like a partition you might have in a big conference room. So a curtain, that is solid, maybe up to about head height and neck above, so you can see through it. So that's a very easy way to cordon off areas or partition. And if you need to cut the field in half, or if you need to create a space where nobody should go, you can use something like that as well. So those are other ways to slice and dice the space, for different purposes.
I lied, I have one more comment. Is the Autumn League Festival float, are they expecting that is?
I did let Autumn League, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago. I did let them know that this conversation was happening with the council. They're also aware they don't have a formal agreement right now to use that space. It's just kind of a verbal, okay, guys, you can use the space. I also noticed, and I did not know this until Andrea took the photos, that the beer wagon is stored there as well. That used to be stored, I believe, at what we call the PUD building at Public Works campus. This is a better location for it right now because it's not in the way of our staff and their operations.
I know we need to draw this to a close, but for my part, I think we should, I'd rather continue this discussion to see where we can go with this, but without not shut it down. I think it's got some potential there, and I just know that we're starving for green space for kids to play on. And I think this might be a possibility. It might not as we get farther into it, but I think it's worth our time to further explore.
I think it's worth our future conversation as well. I think that we need a little bit more information.
Yeah.
So that we can make a more educated decision, whether or not to support. Some things that come to mind that would really be beneficial for me and how I'm assessing the ask are some actual costs. And I think, I mean, to Travis's point, is there a multi-use option, or is it just going to be turf and can it only be used for soccer? I would like to know that information. And what are the options? If there is a multi-use floor option, what is it and how much does it cost? How much is your turf going to cost? For both options, I would love to see you outline what sort of time and expense it's going to take to maintain those surfaces in personnel and actual physical costs. Because that also comes into play. I think the conversation about the danger of the supports is very viable, particularly with children. What do those mats cost? You know, they're a lot like tower pads up at ski resorts, those sorts of things. So I think that needs to be built into the cost assessment. And then what is it going to be? What is it going to take to maintain it in the weather conditions that we have? It's not fully covered. It's not enclosed. It's going to take some weathering. You're going to be cleaning up. It's going to get wet, it's going to have snow on it, those sorts of things. So that's also going to take some maintenance, and I'd love to know kind of what the scope of that looks like as well. And security measures.
Yeah.
I'd also like to know how much skin in the game the soccer club really has for something like this, because while city does own it, it is going to be quite an effort for us to take this on unless you guys are willing to participate in that. And I'd love to know what the club is interested in.
They used to, actually, a couple of guys used to go up on that camp with snow blowers. When the snow would get so big and they would snow, I've got pictures of it. They would snow blow, you know, on that, yes, I thought it was awfully
Yeah.
scary. I don't know how they stayed up there.
That was back before OSHA, apparently.
Call Bruce Disher.
Legal.
Yeah, and I agree with your comments on that. I'd like to know, I don't know if it's on the city to find out like what the cost is to securing the buildings, you know, putting up plywood on all the windows and installing security cameras
And lights and then.
and lights and
Yeah.
so.
And
relocating all the stuff that's under there.
Right.
Yeah.
I think as a club, we are happy to do the research into the cost of the turf and the cost of anything that we would put in there.
Right.
I think what we don't know and don't have the expertise on is as a structure, did anything need to happen to the structure to make it open for people to be in there? But we don't know that, so that we could use some help there, you know, like, I don't know what codes exist around spaces like this, to become publicly open.
I think that it's more than just looking at turf. I think it needs to be leveled. I think that, you know what I mean, just rolling out turf or buying turf or just quoting turf. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's a company, it's good, give us like, this is gonna be $100,000 plus at the end of the day, not 50 to 60, in my opinion.
Yeah, 50-60 was just the cost of the material turf, yeah, so it could well be more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hear that we can continue this discussion and look at it, and you'll continue to get finer points, and we'll look at what we can do with everything there, and we'll bring it up again. But let's go ahead then and move on, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks.
We all care about the kids,
Yep.
bottom line.
In the community
It can
at
work.
large.
Let's go to utility rate increase.
Is Kara down there?
See ya.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I hope you're not looking to me.
Yeah, Andy, come on.
There's here.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Great,
Yeah, you're
fine.
good. Yeah.
Hi, Kara.
Hi, Kara.
Okay, so I heard we were in need of a communication and outreach plan for some things to move it. So does everyone have a copy of the plan? So before, and please, I want all your questions, and so excited to talk to you about this. I'm actually really excited for this effort. From a communication perspective, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting messaging project. It's going to be very multifaceted, and it's going to be an ongoing effort, right? So we're not sort of a one and done. It's going to be something that we start and we continuously grow and develop. And of course, in the short term, hopefully, if we get the green light, we will be pretty instantaneous with the kickoff next week. But one of the few things I kind of want to just highlight, there's a lot of high level things in the plan, but at the end of the day, sort of, it's my understanding that really we want to address sort of 2 to 3 main questions. What does everyone really want to know, especially in regards to utility rates? Probably the number one question is, how much am I going to pay, right? How much is my bill going to increase? What is it going to cost me? And for those that are fearful of those cost increases, what programs are available to help with those costs? All right, so, which is understandable, residents can be concerned about, you know, that tangible burden. So our job is going to be able to communicate that, and our message is going to be value over cost. And one of the things that we're going to hopefully implement on a dedicated website page is a rate cost calculator. So someone will be able to go in, put in their water usage, and it'll go, and it'll tell them what they're going to be paying. So they'll get to see the difference in real time. Which will hopefully manage their stress levels. And we also have a couple of programs in place that can help for low income hardship and senior citizens. So that's the number one question that we really want to answer, right? The second question is, why? Why are we raising rates? Why are you doing this? Which is a totally valid question. So, and I think the main question too, which I like to say, we're telling a story, but probably at this point we're telling a saga, is why are we doing this now? Why now? And what is that money going to be used for? So our job is going to be really communicating that not only transparently, but also really clearly, right? So people want to know what their money is going towards, why we're doing it now, why the level now. And so that's going to be our job, is to basically explain, which is the challenging part of this, because it's multifaceted, right? So talking not only about funding essential services, but infrastructure upgrades, keeping rates low, avoiding emergency issues, the list goes on. So, and you know, what's below the road, we got to fix that before you can get to the roads, all of those things. So that's question number 2, the why, which is one of my favorite questions. And then number 3, this is my other main question. So, and it talks about value. What's in it for me? Do I get better water? Do I get cleaner water? Do I get better service? How does this impact me, and what can I do about it? So, and I love this because this is where we really get to hone in on outreach and education, right? So this is where we can talk about conservation, right? And all of those good things. So And this again, we're shifting from that narrative of cost to value. So, will it increase in fewer outages, better water quality, fewer leaks, energy efficiency, demand response, and all of those things? So those are kind of the questions, the three primary questions that we hope we will answer. There's gonna be a lot of other questions that come down the road, which we will answer, but at the end of the day, hopefully we do a really good job of taking, I have some really creative ideas too, that I'm really excited about. So, yeah. I think, so yeah, high level, it's gonna be transparent, clear, open, and we're gonna do lots of different things. We're gonna do some old school, we're gonna be doing postcards, we're gonna be doing letters, we're gonna be doing website, we're doing like pop-ups. I have some really cool, I haven't gotten any volunteers yet, but I want to do some video blurb. And I also want to do some features about what the city is doing to conserve water and how we're basically taking that on too. So I'm really excited about this project. And Anne, did you have anything? Sam's looking.
Here's the Kim. Oh, she's here.
Oh, where is she?
Yes, I'm trying. Sorry, I'm moving
Okay.
around. I'm really uncomfortable tonight.
Yeah, and is there anything you want to add? I mean, and I expect this document is kind of, I call this a living document. So we're basically going to start off and we're going to pivot as needed. As questions come in or we identify gaps in sort of our communication outreach, that we will adjust as needed. And like I said, we'll start this, but it will keep going as these rates continue to increase. So like I said, I want to have a coloring contest. Like we have some really great ideas that we're going to hopefully implement here. So, but Andy, what do you think? Is there anything else that you want to kind of highlight about the comms and public outreach effort?
I guess the biggest thing I just wanted to share with the council was from our last meeting, my takeaway was this was the piece that's missing. And we're lucky to have Kara, who's run with this and has put together this plan. I'm really happy to provide any of the technical components, but Kara is our outreach person. So if this is the piece that you are all still wanting to see before voting, Kara really is our expert here who will be able to answer any of those education and outreach questions for you.
I guess, Andy, I had my thing is that I was looking at this sheet. Projects, right? So what is this increase going to pay for? What I had here was a list of the projects in 25. Let's see if I got this right. That part of the increase in rates deals with KOA lift station. Is that where it's going? That's it. That's what I think. When I get asked by the community, they're going to say, what are we spending this stuff on? I think they know solid projects, that's clearly identified. It goes down a lot easier. There's always the thing about the infrastructure failing and deferred maintenance. But I think it's also really important that we have projects listed that are in the pipe, being worked on now and are coming on to be worked on. So there's names to them, we've got millions of dollars here. So if we can label that, I think that's what I see people asking me. I can explain to them about conservation. I can explain to them about deferred maintenance. They know we have leaks all over the place. They get that, but I think also part of that structure, the value that you talked about is projects that we're funding now because we couldn't fund before. So.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Clint.
I was just gonna say, that's a great point, and I think that it's important to make sure that's articulated in a way that is, here's another example, because I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this plan you put together, Kara, is that you're able to do it. You were able to give 30,000 foot messaging without drowning in the details, but also offering specific messaging pillars where we're doing this because of this. And when you start getting into specific projects, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, people can disagree, but the challenge that you get into is their takeaway is, oh, so we're paying all this money just for that. Like they zone in on that one example that you're studying. So you have to be really, really clear, and maybe in your channel of communications, making sure it's hammered home that this is yet another example of what your money is paying for. So people don't get the idea that this is all that money is going towards, right? So that it's just going towards Orchard Street or something like that. The thing that I really appreciated about this plan I think it's put together very well, especially when you're a one-person band, like making
Yeah.
sure that it's as comprehensive as this with timelines and also achievable objectives. I mean, you can be as prescriptive and as detailed as you want, but when it's one person doing it, you also need to make sure that it's doable. So, just generally, yes, I agree with you, and I think this is a killer plan. I think you did a great job. Yeah.
And, Councilmember Lester, to your point, I do agree with you that there is value in that, and I do think that we can tie that in, and that's something we can do in tandem with this, because I do think it's important. We have a saying like, parking has a saying, your parking dollars at work, right?
Right.
So that's something we could feature, the utility rate dollars at work, and we can highlight that, or when we, have buses that are funded by grants or funded by, the city of, city residents and, whatever grant fund. So we can make sure to highlight that and tie that in. And what I'd love to do is after this is maybe keep tally of that and also
Right.
show as projects are getting completed and done, sort of the things that we were able to accomplish. Yeah, so I do think having a tangible, visible result in the near term future is important thing. So, and especially when you can't see it, like especially when it's done under the ground, and then it's just there. Yeah, so.
Because that's the conversations I've had so far is, what are these projects? And, I mean, they're now well aware of icicle, the main transmission line. They got that, but that just needs, because that really helps. I think that needs to be part of your message, just, very
We can
much so.
tack on a little bit. I could add another section about talking about how we highlight projects and how funding ties into that and sort of add another little bit onto that.
Mhm.
So I would,
Like the dollar value, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Zeke, and I think one of the other really helpful things for you will be that because Kara is producing all of these different forms of communication, you'll be able to route your constituents to those as well, so that you don't have to take on the burden of educating everyone. You can connect them back to all the work she's done as well.
Yeah, good point. I just want to have some answers for that short conversation,
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, right.
We'll make that one of our top efforts. Thank you.
All right, anything else before we move on? It's fun to see it roll out. Okay, thank you.
Good to see you all.
Good job, Kara.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you, Kara.
Yeah, well, yeah, and let me know, because I'm gonna get started with this tomorrow at my conference.
All right, review of the rate and fee schedule.
Would you like us to just go through it page by page, or council, do you just want to ask
Council, what do they
questions?
want?
I still need to find it. Down.
Abby,
Tab what?
Abby.
Tab E, okay.
Maggie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
On the design review page, I think it's page 14 of the fees.
Yep.
I think it's on page 26 in our PDF.
Yeah.
The added fee exterior changes to a building without an approved design review permit. Is that a compliance fee? Is that what that
It's
is?
kind of, so I put it with, because we have that under our building code, like after the fact, building permit fee is $500. So this would be a fee that's tacked on to their design review permit when they come in. We have the same fee for after the fact permits, the same $500 fee for installation of a sign without a permit. It's just to incentivize, so the sign, the one for signs we haven't had to use until just recently. And it is kind of deterred people from putting them up before they get approved by the board, because we want the board to review them before they go up.
Yeah.
So this is a case, we just had an issue where we had a building downtown painted a completely different color without any approvals. And the building owner didn't even know it was done. So this is a way that we can, the tenant did it. And so it's one thing when it's routine repair and maintenance, they might not know. When it's a complete change of a color or a complete change of a design element. This is just incentivizing people to get the appropriate permits. We don't make it hard. Sometimes they're just administrative. And it's a $65 fee for a small project. So it incentivizes them to come in and do it instead of doing it after the fact. With the amount of paperwork we have to do for compliance with all these, I think it's justified. And on all the DRB permits, we do require an owner's signature or now that we're going away from paper permits, there's a disclaimer that they have the authority of the property owner to be requesting this application. So we can avoid issues like we're having right now downtown.
Okay.
But I'm open to suggestions. I just tried to make it the same fee that we do for after the fact permitting for signs and for building. So it's just the same across the board.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any questions?
On page 18, it's right after all the meter charges. Under miscellaneous fees, there's 2 new additions that don't have a dollar value yet.
18 and
Yeah.
19?
Yeah.
I'm happy to speak to those. On page 18 under the water fees, that's where you're looking in.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I haven't finished those yet. They were just put in as a placeholder because these are issues that we've been having over this past year. So honestly, it was my note to myself to go back and add these in. And then after tonight with the rates, I'll be going through all the water, sewer, stormwater, and garbage in more detail. So for the next meeting that we bring this to you, I'll have that cleaned up.
Are these like if you have a new home and you're putting in the water meters?
No, these are more, so we've had a couple different things happen. One is that people have water meters in their driveway, they drive over them and break them and damage them. And then it's clear in the code that if they're driven over, that it's the property owner's responsibility because they damage city infrastructure. What's happening here though is then people claim that it's their meter is in the right of way and it's like a service vehicle or something that drove over them. So we're wanting to have a clear charge for people, otherwise we end up replacing infrastructure. What we do in those situations, we send letters to people saying, hey, you don't have a traffic rated lid. Some of them were before we had driveway permits. There's various things that have happened where meters are placed in driveways. So this just gives us a fee to actually replace the meter box to be traffic rated. And then the second one, number 19 on here, is for a customer requested meter adjustment fee. This happens when people landscape or do other improvements around their meter box, but then want the city crew to come in and adjust the lid of their box. And right now we don't have a clear fee for that either. All of these are things that are driven by property owners. So again, just trying to have a clear fee so that we know how to bill them for that work.
Well, I'm just trying to find myself here in this. The city put in my water meter when they put in the new water meters. So am I responsible for that?
No, so that would be included. So this is more for existing water meters that then are being adjusted or the meter box is being replaced. Like, for example, a new connection would be covered in the section a few pages up on page 15. So the new connection charges that would be included in the system development charge, the meter charge, and the installation, inspection, and connection charge. This is for that would be for new. The section we're looking at under miscellaneous is for existing. So Sharon, if you, I don't know exactly where your meter is, but if you wanted to put a driveway over the top of your meter and you had no other location you could put your driveway, we would need that to be a traffic rated lid, and then you would pay this charge to replace your water meter box.
Okay, it's only if I do something now. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I thought you meant it's gonna come at me.
Are these meter
Oh,
boxes?
I gotcha.
Are these meter boxes generally in the right of way, not on private property?
they should all be in the right of way. That's not necessarily true in some cases, but they should all be in the right of way.
So if they're in the right of way and not on private property, why would the private property owner be responsible for this cost? When the property owner, in most cases in the city, didn't have any control over where the location was because it's not on their property.
Some of these have happened where their driveways were put in over the top of them. So in order for their driveway to be accessed, they're driving over the meter box. Some of them are in, like a great example is on West Street. There was an existing home that burned and has been rebuilt. And the location of the water meter was in the driveway, but it's not a traffic rated box. So in order for them to put the driveway back in the same location, we're not going to have them put a box that we know isn't traffic rated. So we'd want them to replace that with a traffic rated box and lid. And especially the older meters, or sorry, the older services have a concrete box that's not traffic rated. So we have to excavate the entire box and replace it with a box and lid that are traffic rated. Some, like there was another one on, it was on Cascade Street for the meter box adjustment fee, where there was some differential settlement that happened, but ultimately from our perspective, what it looked like was there was landscaping that had taken place. So now the water meter box is either high or low, depending on what's going on in this specific situation. Yes, it is in right of way. It functions like someone's yard and they're maintaining the vegetation like it's their yard. They want that meter box adjusted, and that doesn't involve a decent amount of work from the city's side. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling over here.
Yeah, I'm fully understanding your explanation. I appreciate your explanation. I'm just struggling with charging customers for fees for things that are not of their ownership and not on their property. I struggle with some of that.
Well, I think the biggest, at least, I mean, if you want to look at this and take it a different direction, we can do that. The way that I look at it is when we're providing a service that's requested by a customer for the benefit of the customer, I don't think it's equitable for us to put that fee on all other ratepayers and have that be incidental to city work. That's where I came from on this, in wanting to have those be specific for work requested by the customer. Now, there are instances, depending on what's going on, where we do that work. So I'm trying to think if I've had any recently. Generally, though, the ones we have been driven. Oh, so yeah, for example, if we have a meter box that's in a sidewalk, an existing meter box that's not traffic rated, but it's in a sidewalk and it's a sidewalk that the city maintains and it's feasible that we damaged it, then we'll go ahead and replace that box. It's not driven by the customer, if that makes sense.
Generally, what you're saying is that these are situations where the customer has done something that creates a need for a different box, either raised or lowered or traffic, because it was existing, it worked, but for instance, they expand their driveway, it goes over. So it's something they did. So that's where I think it's the difference in.
Either something they did or something that they're requesting.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
I had some follow-up information on business licenses. At the second meeting in September, I was at WFOA, so I was not here. And there were just some questions about what was the history and as to why we went from a multi-tier to just the two different rates. So I did go back to April 28th of 2009, and that was when this was implemented. The minutes of that meeting state that the new rate structure allows for a streamlined process with the Department of Licensing by establishing a single rate of $115 for all users and an additional surcharge of $185 for a total of $300 for approximately 23 businesses that had 13 or more employees. So looking at just those numbers, and I went back to 2009 and looked at all business licenses, about 90% of our businesses are less than 12. So that had obviously a big factor as to why we were like, okay, we're just gonna have one rate here and then another rate there. The revenue generation was about $5,000 at that time. That had been 45,000 a year. It jumped us to 50,000. So it was about a 10% one-time increase that happened. And today's collections are above 115,000. So we've come quite a ways with the number of business licenses that are renewed. I would just also point out that since we don't manage this, it is through the Department of Licensing. So when folks are renewing, my assumption is that they have to give that number of license because we're not the only ones that do this. And so that's how they drive the rates. I highly doubt that Department of Licensing has staffing, audit staff to try to actually go double check. Just like we didn't have the time and the staff to also do that. And that was part of why we did outsource with Department of Licensing when they offered the program.
Chantel, you're saying that 80% of our businesses downtown, 80% of them have 12 employees or less?
In 09,
In
90% of them.
90%.
90%.
And has that changed?
I don't know the answer to that. That would be a data request from Department of Licensing to find out where we're at. Community development staff actually does all the processing of business licenses. Finance, we just book the payments. But Amy could potentially reach out if you wanted us to go further with that.
No, I just was trying to get that clarified.
Okay.
While we're on business licenses, I just noticed we still have the peddler fee in there.
Oh, yeah, that is too.
And we did remove peddling licensing from the code last year.
I think I had that on my draft. I'm like, that's great. I did not have it.
All of the utility rate fees in here that are reflected in the striking and then the new green. Does that reflect our recent well, there's some of it's in purple, I guess, too.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person. So can you walk us through what these current rates reflect based on the many conversations we've had?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what all these changes represent.
Yeah, so in the system development charge, what was happening here, Chantel did an awesome job, went through and updated all of these. And then in the resolution that was passed,
I'm on page 20. The start of the sanitary sewer rate fees.
I didn't see a page number.
At the
Oh, there
bottom.
it is.
Yep.
and it should have started in water. Yeah, so what was going on there? So Chantel went through the resolution and input all these, and then I went back through and updated them because in the resolution we passed for the system development charges, we said that there would be a inflation factor added onto all of those. So the final amount in here includes the inflation adjustment.
So green was my original. And then purple was Andy overriding with what was actually passed by council after I had done those.
Okay, so starting on page 15, the new numbers are what we have already discussed and approved for 2026. Okay.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
the
good
new-
question. And like I said, so far, all I've done in here is a system development charge. I haven't changed any of the other utility rates. What I was anticipating doing for the other items that aren't from the rate resolution that's before you tonight, like the meter charges, for example, I was just going to do an inflation factor that was the same for your resolution for the system development charge for the 2026 rates, which I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it was 2.3%. But I was just going to increase all of those with the same inflation factor.
I guess I'm not entirely following that. I see the changes for system development charges, but not, I guess, what's the rest that you're talking about? Like what, you're talking about consumption charges, right? And how those been modified yet? Is that what you're talking about?
I haven't modified anything else in any of the utility sections, like for example, under water, number 2, the meter charge, those will be increased with the inflation adjustment as well, but haven't been yet.
Okay.
And she did mean that usage rates have not been included yet, because tonight on your evening agenda is to actually approve the utility rates, and then if you
Yeah.
guys do that, that will drive us to make all these additional
Gotcha.
changes.
Okay,
We shouldn't want to do the work and then have to backpedal.
Right.
that makes sense. Okay. What are the yellow highlights?
Oh, that was me letting Andy know that she needed to look at those.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, sorry, yellow highlights
That's
are my
okay.
note to myself too, that I didn't finish
I mean,
yet.
there's just a few on a few
Yeah.
pages. I was just curious what the yellow highlights are for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Reminders that we don't forget and skip them.
gotcha. Okay.
Good question, sorry about that. Working document.
Uh, Under miscellaneous garbage fees on page 27. Number 7's header is monthly rental fees for garbage containers. And the 2 that have been added are per collection. Are those in the right spot? Rather
Nope,
than
they're per container. That's also my mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't mislabeling something or they weren't in the right spot.
No, nope, you're
but
totally
we
right. We
have-
don't have. Okay.
It's per container.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Yeah, right now we just actually don't have those listed in here anywhere. So Chantel's team caught that and pointed out that we needed, but that was my mistake. I wrote collection, not container. Again, this document will, I'll go through it in a lot more detail after,
Sure.
after tonight.
And we're adding these in particular because we're finding with SUPs that when we were doing it, we didn't have a fee for the smaller cans. And some of the festivals are small and they wanted the smaller cans.
Is the PRSA going to be addressing pool fees in any sort of way?
We're going to talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
Questions?
Still scrolling through everything to make sure I got it all.
And I know that we're still going to be looking at Fest Hall to get in 2027 rates. Andy, are you anticipating any change in cemetery?
Just inflation increases there as well.
Inflation. Parking, I don't think.
I reviewed it with Shannon before it went on. There are a couple of changes. I'm not sure if she had a chance to make them before it made this the packet. But we did a lot of updates last year.
So we will do more after tonight, and our packet deadline for the next meeting is this Friday. We'll be working pretty furiously after tonight to get all this done for Andrea by next week, so she can get the next packet up.
I've lost my, okay, so I had the systems development charges page, but I've lost it. Does anybody know where that's at?
For which utility, Zeke?
I think it starts on page
15? Okay, so. Just trying to, wait a minute. Oh, I'm
here on page 5.
okay. Let's get up here. All right, there's 15.
System.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I'm good.
Hey. Good for now? Last chance? On this go round.
Yeah.
All right. I I think we're good for now. And we've got a few minutes to break.
Do we want to, like,
Recording.
or in the future, I think it'd be real valuable if we had a discussion on where we're at as a city and our strategy for traffic on the 600, almost 670 units coming online on Titus Road. I haven't got quite a very clear idea of how we're working with the county on that and what our expectations are for ourselves. And I'd like to have that down really well. So the traffic plan is what I'm talking about. It's how that's gonna feed into the chunk stick. And
Talk about 348, 384 units,
there's 360 plus units.
384 units.
Yeah, 384 units. So I don't know when they're coming online, when they're gonna get released, but that impact of traffic on that highway is gonna be big, huge.
There was a traffic impact study done before that project was developed, was permitted. So what are you asking?
So my question is, what are we, I mean, you can't just dump 380 some people out of 380 units onto that highway without something, is it the county's responsibility?
Well, Zeke,
They're
I
dumb-
think the traffic impact analysis I forwarded you last week is where that was discussed, and then also the SEPA, which talked about that. If it's something that the council wants to discuss, we can. There's just no decisions that we can make or anything that we can change because that's already been approved.
Right.
If you're wanting us to like help educate you on what that looks like, we can definitely do that. But again, we can't go back on anything that was previously.
I'm
approved.
not expecting us to change anything. I haven't, I didn't quite understand how, I just don't see how we can, that many people coming into that highway without huge issues, like the TIA said that there wasn't gonna be the impact. Is that was the consensus? That the traffic impact analysis we're at a certain level and it's okay?
I know that the county has a preliminary plan for a roundabout there.
But that's that's more than a year away.
Oh, I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
But really the TIA is the best thing to look through that just shows what the mitigation required of the development are, and then also in the SEPA.
well, I'll tell you what, Andy, I'll take a look. I missed your email, so I'll take a look at that and then get back with you or, because it still isn't clear to me just how we're gonna handle that much traffic coming into that. I see no way how that makes any sense yet, so, but I'll do my homework.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's take a break. Call the meeting of Leavenworth City Council for November 12th to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Jane, start us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. What? Roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Clint Stream,
Ann Hesper.
Zeke Reister,
Shane Thayer?
Travis McMaster.
And I would entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Bedard from the meeting.
So moved.
second.
All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Now we have consent agenda and are we adding something?
Yes,
Well, the council would like to add something.
Yes.
I would like to amend the agenda this
Right.
evening to add item number 14 to our agenda, Leavenworth Fund Grant Awards for 2026.
Okay,
Second.
right. We'll add that on there. I would entertain a motion then to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sharon, seconded by Clint. All those in favor, let me see your hand. Passes unanimously. Now, before we go on in the meeting, just a reminder that here we're respectful of each other. We acknowledge that it's okay if we disagree. Prior to making comments, it must be recognized by the chair. We'll ask you to come up and state your name and address. Please address the council as a whole and not individuals. And keep your comments focused on a topic that's being discussed unless that items for those not on the agenda, then of course you can do that. And then we will go to comments from public on items not on the agenda. If you have something you would like us to hear, now's the time to do so, and we'd ask you to come forward. I'm not seeing anybody jumping up. Is there anybody online?
Nobody with a hand raised.
Nobody with their hand raised. Okay. Then we will move on and to our presentation from Our Valley, Our Future. We've got a couple of representatives from there, maybe Richter here from our town here and the new ED, and Rachel, ED that's here as well. So we'll turn it over to you and tell us what's going on at Our Valley, Our Future.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, council. My name is Rachel Evie. I am the executive director of Our Valley, Our Future. We're very excited to be here this evening to share our plans for 2026. I have been in the position for just over 1 month. Prior to that, I was at Wenatchee Valley College Foundation for 8 years. And prior to that, I was in my hometown of Bakersfield, California. I'm Maggie Richter. I know all of you. I live here in Leavenworth and started working for Our Valley, Our Future in March as the development and facilitation specialist. And we are joined by Bob Uber, one of our board members. All right, it's working. So if you're not familiar with Our Valley, Our Future, our mission is to empower people and organizations to co-create and achieve our region's shared vision. We're a nonpartisan organization that is predominantly focused on Chelan and Douglas counties. We do whole community work, so we're cross-sector. As someone who has worked in the nonprofit sector, I find that very compelling because what we do is get nonprofit organizations, public entities, such as the City of Leavenworth, and private businesses all together in one room to talk about challenges that are happening in our region and how we can address them. We primarily have 4 areas of action. The first thing is we lead community visioning every 5 years, ensuring that all voices are heard. We'll dive a little deeper into that. We created an action plan that is shaped by thousands of residents. Over the last 10 years, we've received feedback from over 4,500 residents in Chelan and Douglas counties. We have some demographics a little later, but the great thing about that is we are very similar to the racial demographics as we are in our action plan response rate. We support our partners with coordination, data, and communication, and we keep our region focused on both today and the future. So this is what we have coming up in 2026. We're entering the end of our current 5-year action plan. This is our second 5-year plan, so we've been around for about a decade. We're going into our community visioning process to develop the next 5-year plan. We do that through a number of different ways. The first way is an online and paper survey that is bilingual in English and Spanish. That way our residents can respond. We do stakeholder interviews. Those are one-on-one interviews with community leaders. We do listening sessions and focus groups around specific geographic areas or specific demographics. So for example, we're planning on partnering with NCW libraries to host listening sessions in our more rural communities across Chelan and Douglas counties. And then we're also looking at interest groups such as senior citizens or youth, the ag industry, the tech industry, just to make sure we can dive a little deeper into survey results to have a more accurate idea of what our action plan should look like. And then lastly, we have our action teams, which is basically like a litmus test for things that come together.
Residents have a lot of really great ideas about things that we should be doing over the next 5 years as a region, but not all of them are feasible over the course of the next 5 years or maybe ever. And so that's why those action teams are in place with professionals and experts to say, you know what, maybe now is not the right time to do this. Let's think about it being some pie in the sky for some time in the future. So I kind of previewed this a little bit, but Maggie's gonna go deeper.
Yeah, so this highlights our data from our 2021 action plan, and gives you kind of a picture of who was part of that. You see predominantly in Chelan County, 31% Douglas County, really strong Hispanic turnout. We also know that many of our Latino and Hispanic neighbors may not feel comfortable answering this, so a 25.8% response rate is very good. In addition, you can see the age demographics, which are skewed a little older when compared to the demographics of our region, which is both fair given who might respond to some of these things. And I think we'll make more effort in this time also to reach some of our younger folks. So right, those smaller pies are where we get under 30, it's less represented. And in this action plan in 2021, we had 11% from the Upper Valley. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Your Hispanic response rate is actually really impressive. It is really impressive. I agree. What modes did you get out there and use to have them feel as comfortable as they did respond?
Yeah, the big thing there is using other trusted partners. So really like that it's not, me going out and asking or seeking that relationship, but people already have relationship there. So Cafe is a big trusted partner, Parque Padrinos, there are many others that already are a trusted place that can disseminate that information. And I think over the years, and especially this was our second action plan, I think our Valley Future has done a really good job of building those inroads and connections. So it's not like hey, we want to talk to you every 5 years. It's really like we want to foster that we're all part of this community, and that Hispanic neighbors make up really 30% or more, a little more of that. So it's like we want there to be a space at the table that that's represented in our board and in a lot of the work we do.
And 2021, of course, was a unique time. So they were actually listening sessions in Matau Park in Wenatchee that were organized by Parque Padrinos and Cafe. And those were the only in-person surveys that we had that year because of COVID. And as Maggie mentioned, we've got representation on our board from a couple of trusted nonprofit organizations in the Valley. And then we go to regular community engagement events like cafes and Craig Vico to make sure that we have a consistent presence. We're not just showing up when we want something from the community.
And a lot of our events, we'll talk about events, but we do offer, our bilingual, we offer simultaneous translation during our symposiums and events. We're really trying to make the access fair for everybody.
Our social media, all of our marketing materials by people.
Didn't want to get you too far off track. Just wanted to ask. Thank you.
That's a good question. Yeah. So after literally 12 months of doing surveys and focus groups and action teams and interviews and everything else, that distills down into our 5-year action plan. We have different focus areas for each action plan, all 2 of them, and they've changed a little bit from the first version to the second one. These areas are from our 2022 to 26 version. So shared prosperity, well-planned region, that's where housing and transportation comes into play. Sustainable environment includes our game changer on wildfire resiliency, safe, healthy, supported people, educated and inspired people, which includes our early learning coalition, and then inclusive and engaged communities, which includes our civic design game changer partnership with Community Foundation. So while there's been a lot of changes from year 1 to version 1 to version 2, we do see these consistent threads because we know the challenges our community and our region face are consistent even after 5 years is up. You'll also probably notice that a lot of these themes tie into the 7 vital conditions, which is kind of a standard for looking at community health and long-term vision on how to address those needs. So many organizations, whether they're private businesses or public or nonprofit organizations, are focused on the urgent here and now. How do we get people fed, housed, clothes? OVOF is in a really unique space where we get everyone together to talk about the future in the next 5 years and really wanting to make sure that we make those long-term systemic things better for everyone who's in our communities.
So Rachel alluded to
the other aspects of what we do, I think the action plan is often what people think of when they think of our Valley Our Future. But we also are working a lot behind the scenes during those 5 years, which is pretty cool, doing coordination, data, facilitation, communication to turn those ideas into reality. And as Rachel kind of alluded to, we facilitate 5 working groups. So there are 6, which I'll highlight. One is, so this is kind of some of our partners, which you are represented on there. This is not all of them, but these are partners who participate in working groups or have participated as lead partners in some of the action items within the action plan. Our Housing Solutions Group has been around since 2017, and that group is really focused on creative and collaborative solutions for housing in our greater region. So many community development directors are a part of that. Mike Bolts has attended many times. Our most recent project has been focused on middle housing directory to have a space for homeowners to find resources if they want to develop middle housing in their on their land or nearby places that they have connection. The second is the Wildfire Preparedness, Prevention and Recovery Group, which I facilitate. That group restarted this year. Cascadia Conservation District received a grant, which will help us put together a centralized bilingual website with wildfire information for smoke, wildfire, and recovery. We've identified over 50 different websites that have information for residents or visitors or homeowners or that whole aspect. So that group is highly focused on making that website, which we plan to launch in the spring. Next is our post-carbon economy working group, which is kind of transitioning into industrial symbiosis. The post-carbon economy group recently released the greenhouse gas emissions study with the city of Wenatchee and county. And then they're moving into an industrial symbiosis, which if you're not familiar, is really like taking one man's trash and turning it into another man's treasure, but on an industrial level. So the waste on a larger scale being repurposed into something useful for other places. So that's with the city of Wenatchee and Port. So there are lots of partners. If any of you are interested in participating, that is just kind of launching. We have our early learning and care working group, which is the North Central Early Learning Coalition, which I also help facilitate. And their goals are overall to build connections between providers and families, increase awareness about the needs of providers and what's available to families with young children, and advocate for early learning support. Our health literacy groups will be launching soon, and then the Community Foundation facilitates our Many Voices, One Region, and Diverse Leadership Game Changer initiatives, which are focused around bringing new civic leaders and more diverse voices to the civic spaces.
So as you can see, we have a lot of partners that are doing a lot of really active work. And so OVOF's role once again is to convene and facilitate those broader visionary conversations to make sure we're all working towards that regional vision. Over the last 10 years or last 5 years, excuse me, we've written 68 letters of supports to funders that has secured over $100 million in funding for Chelan and Douglas counties. So very often our legislature, we just had a meeting with our District 12 representation on Friday. One of their first questions is, are you in the action plan? Are you involved with our Valley Our Future? Because it just shows that immediate buy-in to this longer term vision and also a broader scope of community benefit. So that's something that our Valley Our Future does just because we have over 100 action items in our 2 plans. And over 100 of them have met their objectives. So we have a lot of wins that we can talk about as well. Another way that we support our partners is by doing data and research. So we're really good at surveys, as you've seen, so we're able to get a lot of feedback from residents that way when we want to drill deeper on any particular topic. We're able to get some more fine-tuned information. Most recently, as Maggie mentioned, we've released our greenhouse gas emission report for the city of Wenatchee and Chelan County. Also recently, we did a government reductions impact report that was in partnership with Thriving Together NCW, and that was looking at the impacts of federal government cuts on our local nonprofit organizations and their services and programs. We've also done reports on broadband and digital equity. We have a regional housing study, and we have a regional housing summit that we host every single year. That way we can kind of stay up to date on things that are happening. The mayor and I recently talked about what City of Leavenworth is doing densification and ADUs with the pre-approved the permit structure. So that's another thing that has been replicated by the cities down the hill in Wenatchee and East Wenatchee. So that's another success that OVOF has been involved in.
So we're not just behind the scenes facilitating and coordinating things, we also host events, so this highlights the housing summit, which Rachel just mentioned, that has taken place generally annually. And then we host quarterly symposiums, and those are meant to elevate issues aligned with some of the game changers and to bring speakers and experts to the community to both share information, but also to have a collaborative space to think about how we can revision or use or like work together to address topics. So this year, our symposiums have been on wildfire, which Maggie Bowles actually spoke at on a panel and shared about some of the work that the city of Leavenworth has done in terms of our codes, in terms of housing codes, to make us resilient to wildfires. And then we just had one on food insecurity, and one in December will be on mental health. So really just a place for different topics to kind of be digested and to kind of elevate the what's going on in the community with them.
And those are a combination of presentations and then also table discussions. And those table discussions really bring about some organic partnerships that may not have happened without the symposiums in place. And looking at next year, we already have two tentative, one, again, the housing summit, and then the other on industrial symbiosis.
And as Rachel mentioned, in over 8 years, OVO has seen over 100 project objectives met. Many of these objectives impact the entire region, but I thought I'd highlight a few that are a little bit more specific. Some we've already talked about. One of some of the objectives, right, for transportation was to explore opportunities to improve flow and walkability, right? So you all know about the city here and links roundabout on the other side of town, along with increased weekday, weekend, and express options in and around Leavenworth, including our beautiful new wrapped Leavenworth bus, which is really cool. The Housing Solutions Group addressed some of the, decreased regulatory barriers to affordable housing, which Leavenworth, East Wenatchee, and Wenatchee now have pre-approved ADUs, and then continued support for Housing Trust. So Common Ground Housing Trust was kind of birthed or came out of some of the feedback in our action plans, and is currently broken ground on their affordable housing, the Crail Cottages. This is a rendering in Wenatchee that should be available next spring, summer timeframe. And then, of course, sustainable tourism. Right, we definitely know about that. Leavenworth, I feel like the chamber in particular has been a big partner in this, along with Visit Chelan County, TREAD, the Wenatchee Chamber, right, with campaigns and efforts to put volunteers at trailheads, to increase the ideas of kind of caring, right, the Give a Schnitzel campaign, which also then Wenatchee now has their Show Love for This Place campaign, right? It's getting traction, and I think Leavenworth provides a really good example of addressing those things. So one reason we're here today, we hope that the city of Leavenworth and the residents here will support OVOF as we go into our next 5-year action plan. As Maggie talked about earlier, 11% was our response rate for Leavenworth in the last iteration. So while those ratios are similar to the demographics, we really want to make sure that Upper Valley and Leavenworth are represented in this regional plan envisioned for the next 5 years. So participating in the community visioning process in 2026, whether that's just responding to the survey or coming to one of our listening sessions that will be taking place here in Leavenworth, attending one of our symposiums. As Maggie mentioned, the next one's coming up on December 11th and is on mental health. Serving on a game changer working group. So those working groups again on wildfire, early learning, housing solutions, post-carbon economy. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. Even if you're not an industry expert or a person employed in that industry, if you're really passionate about something, you're always welcome to join us. And then if you're just curious to learn more about what we do or want to stay in the loop, we do have an e-newsletter, and we are on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn as of like last week. So anyone else add? That's it. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you, and welcome aboard again, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go on. The next item is a public hearing on the annexation of the properties in Benton Street. Mr. Dinner and Maggie, give the staff.
Yes, thank you very much. Tonight, the city council is being asked to consider an annexation at the terminus of West Benton Street. This has been brought to you multiple times. And then tonight is the actual hearing, which will be followed by a resolution if you choose to move it forward. This property involves two separate parcels. I'm gonna have Andrea pull up the map for me here in a minute. One parcel is a 33.4 acre parcel within the urban growth area. This parcel is split zoned multifamily and tourist commercial. It's owned by Wilkman LLC. The second parcel is a 0.67 acre parcel within the urban growth area, and it is zoned multifamily residential, and it is zoned by Adam Fleeger. During the September 9th regular meeting with the city council, the council considered the letter of intent that was submitted by the applicants and agreed to consider the annexation and proceed with tonight's hearing. On October 13th, 2025, the property owners signed their petition for annexation. And the notice of annexation was posted at the property and in 3 locations at City Hall on October 24th, 2025. The purpose of this annexation is to enable future development of the property using available city services for water and sewer, which run down Mine Street currently. And then the proposed annexation is consistent with the Growth Management Act and city plans for future growth and development as it is currently in the urban growth area, and there's no proposed change in the existing zoning. I was just gonna, this is not super clear. So this here is the Fleeger property, this small parcel here. This larger parcel, if you look at the turquoise outline, is the Wilkman property. So you can see the split zoning here. That happens that over time, this parcel has had multiple boundary line adjustments. So at one point, there was a boundary line here, but it has shifted so much. The zoning doesn't run with the parcel line. So that's why we have that occurring here. It's not uncommon. I do, what else? So there are utilities available. If this were to be developed, they would have to pay system development charges and would have to go through the proper development process. So tonight you were just looking at basically moving this turquoise line to follow the city property, which is this purple line. Sorry, I'm standing right in front of this. So it would just shift the city limits line, which is currently here. Maggie, in here.
You want to use the playground?
That's so much easier.
It's on.
I don't like using this.
So much easier.
Okay, sorry. So, currently, this is the city limits line, the purple boundary here. So it would change the city limits boundary to incorporate this lot and this lot all the way down. They've gone through the 60% petition method. This is something where they're requesting the annexation. And so we are just formalizing that process. If you look in your packet, we have the determination of sufficiency from the assessor's office. We have their petition for annexation and their notice of intention and other public notice documents as required by law. And so tonight, following this hearing, you'll be asked to consider a resolution of intent to annex, which will then go to the Boundary Review Board with Chelan County for processing there as well. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not a development application. There is no proposed development applications in process currently. This is just to modify the boundary from county to city. It is not changing any zoning designations. So the zoning currently exists as it is. The change will be that it will not be a county jurisdiction, so the county will not be reviewing the permits that would come in. If it were annexed, the city would review the permits. And the city would get the revenue from the taxes. The city would get revenue from system development charges. So there are some pros. I believe one of the applicants is here tonight. I don't have a whole lot more. I know I brought this to you multiple times. So if you do have questions, I know we need to follow the hearing process. So that will conclude my presentation. I am available if you have questions.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone who would like to speak to us, or
Public hearing.
come to the microphone, state your name and address, and be included in the public record on this.
Did we officially open the public hearing?
Do we have to give it
I wrote
time?
down the time that it was started.
Okay, does anybody, do you want to come up or?
Council members, Madam Leader, the minor particle owner. You guys have heard from me before about the annexation and we've gone through it in whole. My hang up was the county boundary review board. And so my part of this is to appease the county review board part of their concerns.
And I can speak to that if I'm allowed to.
Sure.
So, yeah, when the first time this came through, we had just Adams parcel, the small one. It does touch a little boundary of the city limits, but when the boundary review board got its application, they made the determination that they weren't gonna consider it contiguous with the city limits, so they would not process, or if they processed it, they were going to deny it. At the same time that I heard that, we got the application for Wilkeman. And I spoke with that owner and said, hey, do you guys want to apply together? Then it will be contiguous. So that is why we're here today. Does that make sense?
To reiterate, I'm looking to build a single family residence home.
Anybody else want to speak to it? The council members have somebody. Oh, you got to come to the public. Name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hattersberger. I live at 70 Wedgeview Lane. And I guess I have questions for city council about the fiscal impact of once this gets annexed in, of what does it cost to do road improvements and sewer and water? If you don't know what the development is, how do you evaluate that?
Well, a public hearing isn't really to answer questions about it. Those are supposed to happen independent of it, but we'll let.
I can answer a little.
Sure.
So when the development comes in, they're required to pay their proportionate share of so if there was a road that needed to be extended, they would be responsible for that, the burden of that cost. They're required to extend the lines for sewer, water, storm. And if there's no storm water available, they have to control it on site. They'd be paying their existing development charge. They would all go through a development review and SEPA for impacts. And so it could not be developed, but there are impacts. We just at this time don't have a development proposal.
I guess just as a member of the community, I have concerns about annexing it in without knowing anything about what's being proposed. And I've heard various things proposed for this parcel. And I don't think very many people know that this is being proposed to annex in. And I think that there might be more concerns than what people were able to come here tonight. So I would just encourage city council to maybe reach out a little bit more and get some more public feedback on this particular annexation before bringing it in. I know a lot of people were surprised that the reason the adventure park kind of had to go through is because it had been annexed in, and people didn't realize that that probably should have been when they commented. And so I feel like it's sort of a parallel process going on here, that not very many people were aware that this was on the docket tonight, and there might be more concern out there than you know of being represented here tonight.
Right, thank you. Any other comments?
I would back up Jen to go get your name.
Yes. We don't do backups, I'm sorry. State your name and address.
My name's Dana Kimmerling. I live at 41 Orion Lane up the Icicle, so not technically a city of Leavenworth resident, but the whole adventure park process was before my time here, but I still hear about it consistently on a regular basis from people that I hear from some folks like, well, they didn't know, they didn't speak up soon enough, they came late to the game, it was just too late. And that's neither here nor there, but I would agree with Jen that this feels like a similar situation and potentially parallel process. And any efforts to make the public aware, the local residents and surrounding area residents would be greatly appreciated. So that there is time to show up like tonight, which I only heard about because of Jen's Facebook post. So, and I was very keen to participate. So, and I think you will run into a lot of the same situations as the adventure park, and that was a long and painful process, from my understanding. And still a lot of hard feelings and negative feelings from area residents, and I'm not one of those. I think that corner looks a lot better than it used to, so be it. But I think it would be in the city's best interest to help get the word out. So, thank you.
We've made the public aware about the hearing, and this is about annexing land and not developing an adventure park or developing anything. This is a hearing on annexing land. Can't tell people what they can or can't do with their property until they come to us and say, we want to do this. They can own property. We're just, with the UGA, we're incorporating lands. That's the plan, living in Leavenworth, like the city. Icicle, it's the UGA, urban growth development. Eventually, some of those pieces will be pulled in. And then they'll be developed and they'll go through
Okay.
the process.
Travis, not supposed to get into debates about.
Just clarifying that it's not about development. This is about annexing land.
It is, it's an annexation request.
Oh, yeah.
Am I allowed to respond?
No, we're not gonna go in the back and forth. That's not what a public hearing is for, so I'm
We
sorry.
have some hands raised online.
We got, okay. We have a hand up,
We got two. Betsy Steele.
okay.
Betsy, if you'd like to speak, you can unmute yourself.
You're still muted.
I'm you.
Yeah. I just feel that once it's annexed, we pretty
Please
much
state your address,
know.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need your name and address, Betsy.
Name and address, please.
Betsy Steele, 9348 Eagle Creek Road, Leavenworth, Washington.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I just feel that the process is probably flawed because once the property has been annexed into the city, there's only one reason for that. And that's for pretty significant development. I don't think it's any secret that there are going to be multiple residential housing facilities there, dwelling units. We don't really know how many more people might be moving in.
We
That's
don't know that.
a rather congested corner there with the adventure park, et cetera, et cetera. And we already are facing some pretty dire situations, perhaps with all the development that is occurring on Chumstick and elsewhere in the city. So I think it's a very wise plan to have a very clear idea of what the folks who are requesting the annexation actually have in mind in advance. So I know that there's a certain procedure that you're following, but I think the community is probably needs to know a little bit more about this before the official annexation occurs. So that's how I feel.
Then we have Ryan and Kim.
If you unmute yourself, you should be able to talk.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would just want to just
Name
kind of,
and address.
Name and address, please.
yeah, Kim Tobiason, 12380 Village View Drive. So I just wanted to get back to the infrastructure portion of this that was mentioned just a few minutes ago, is that we saw that when the McDivitt Development, Land Development Company is going in on Ski Hill, there was significant improvements that were put in and paid for by the city. along Ski Hill, including sidewalks and landscaping. And the developer did not bear the cost of that. So I would like to know that if a development does go in that we don't even know what it's going to be, is the city is not going to be responsible to put in any of the infrastructure to support whatever development does go in. I know that the city has crumbling pipes and so forth, but again, I just want to make sure that it would be clear that anything that went in and infrastructure improvements would not be a requirement of the city, but of the developer, 100% at their cost. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. And that is the way development happens. It's covered
No, it's
by the
not.
developer.
Okay. She's talking back.
Not anymore.
Yeah, mute her.
All right, anybody else? Anybody else raising their hand online? Anybody
I'm
else
happy to comment if you
here?
want clarification on that. If there's any.
Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:39. And we will move on to our action items. Resolution 26/2025, establishing an intent to annex those West Benton properties.
That's me again. So the resolution that's before you tonight is simply a request for the council to approve this, which just will establish the intent to annex. The final process is an actual ordinance that will come back for you. This is to go with the packet that goes to the boundary review board that says we have followed these procedures. There's a really thick packet, the boundary review board requests like a 7-page document and a whole bunch of maps, and they will have a public process as well. And they have to look at just state law requirements for annexation and if this meets the Growth Management Act or not. So again, this is just establishing an intent to annex, and it's part of the process for the boundary review board. It has been reviewed by legal. I am available if there's questions on this document. Yeah.
Maggie, can you remind me again why we are lumping both of these properties into one annexation and not separate annexation?
We are doing the two together because the Fleeger property, while it connects at a point, they don't consider that to be a contiguous boundary. And you can't annex something that's not contiguous.
Oh, okay.
So this application actually came in right after his, as I found that out. So I was like, well, this one's applying.
I see.
We can piggyback on it, and then there is a contiguous.
So we can't annex the Fleeger property without annexing.
No, right. He needs access.
So he needs access to that property.
Okay,
and that's something
thanks for
that we're
reminding me.
as well.
Megan, what's the zoning at this time?
It is in your packet. It's the orange portion of the property is multifamily. The pink portion is tourist commercial.
Tourist commercial?
Okay,
That's what.
I would entertain a motion if somebody would make one.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 26/2025, establishing intent to annex the two West Benton properties.
Second.
Moved by Ann, seconded by Travis. Other discussion?
While I know that a lot of the comments tonight are disassociated with annexation specifically, I personally think that it would be beneficial to respond from a city perspective to some of those comments, because if we don't, I fear that we just continue to have misinformation swirling around our community. So if the council would support that, I think it would be really great to address those comments, because honestly, there was a bunch of misunderstanding associated with those comments, and I would love the opportunity to correct that record so that there's better community understanding with regard to the annexation process and a secondary development process after that, and how they are linked to this, but also in many ways disassociated, because properties that are in the urban growth area are already zoned city zoning. So development that can happen in the urban growth area can happen in the city limits and vice versa. That really doesn't change. So if we could address some of those just really briefly, I think that would be really beneficial.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, What comment do you want me to start with?
Start wherever you think you need to.
I do want to start on the comment that, the developers aren't paying for the development. We hear that a lot, but the reference that was given to the debit property, he did pay for all that infrastructure. He put in, and it wasn't city crews putting it in, it is 100% on the developer. They also pay system development charges to pay their proportionate share of that infrastructure. Every larger development that triggers SEPA, which is anything over 30,000 square feet or 100 parking spaces, or is in an area that has a critical area, such as these properties actually both have a wetland on them. So technically their land's covered by water and they would trigger SEPA regardless. And with SEPA, you address environmental impacts, which is your water, your land, your stormwater, your archaeological impacts, your traffic impacts. That goes through a public process. And that would require a public notice and comment period. That actually goes out to the public within 300 feet of the project, and it goes on our website. We don't even have a process right now codified for annexations, and so we just follow state law, which is minimum standards. So one of my goals I have is to adopt an annexation process. I have it formalized so that we have something to follow, because it's really challenging to read through RCW and follow this process. So anyway, I'm kind of all over the place, but so yeah, the one comment, the developer didn't pay for that was false. He had the bond for a lot of that work, and I saw the bond that I know he paid for that improvement. Again, besides SEPA, all our commercial and multifamily projects go through a public comment period as well. And so there will be the opportunity for the public to review and comment on any proposal that comes in, whether it's just a building permit or it needs a conditional use permit. Both of them follow the same process regardless. If it requires a conditional use permit, it actually has another layer where it goes through the quasi judicial process. So it'll go through a public hearing examiner. That's what happened with Adventure Park, which was brought up a lot as well. We did get some community input after that and changed our code to not allow that specific type of use in the tourist commercial zone anymore. So if somebody were to apply for that project today, it would not be permitted. So that's one thing that I can clearly say. I know some of you were on the council when that passed, so there have been some improvements made to our code to not allow that kind of use anymore. So you can check out the district use chart to see the district use chart is in Title 18, and then the definitions of each of those uses is in Title 21. So you kind of have to flip between the two, but lets you know what the definition clearly is of each of those uses of law. Most of the ones that are kind of a larger impact will require a conditional use permit. Another tricky thing with parcels is access, right? So any project here would trigger a traffic impact analysis unless it was just a single family home. Because we adopted a new code as well for TIAs, which requires a study, it gives a threshold. When Adventure Park came in, we didn't have that. So again, something that we've added to beef up the review process and the requirements. Again, I don't know if I said this would require an archaeological survey as well. Make sure there's no archaeological, anything there. And if there were, that would stop the project completely. So there's a lot of steps in the process. This is just the initial, are we gonna put it in city limits or not? The applicant, this is not a city initiated thing. This is a private property owner asking to come into the city limits. It does not guarantee development. It does not guarantee access to our water and sewer without them paying in, buying in. And that's based on the use as well. So we would have to know all that for next steps. But right now we're just talking about the boundary line. And as Ann stated before, it also is zoned the same. We're not changing the zoning at all. So somebody could build something that's allowed in the first commercial zone there now. They could also, build in multifamily. There are benefits that some community members want to be in the city. And they have the right to ask for that. So that's what this process is tonight.
It's also advantageous to the city because we get to make the permit calls rather than the county using our code to make those decisions. So it does create another level of accountability when it is in the city limits.
We have also made improvements in our public noticing. This process is different, but for noticing for our development projects. And so they will be on the website. There will be, if you subscribe to news and notices, you'll get a copy of the notice if you subscribe to that. Plus, if you're within a range, you'll get a letter. It's good to hear that there are gaps in our noticing system, and so that's why I hope we can get something. I know I talked with Selby earlier this year about we need an annexation process in our code, and he gave me some examples. So that's a goal to improve. There's always room for improvement. But I really do want the public to know that we are trying to be transparent with projects. We have a permit tracking system where we put everything out for the public to be able to view. So every project that comes in the door, you can select on a map and you can look at the plans and it's all there. We're not trying to hide anything, and I am available when people have questions about projects to help.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, and just again, another clarification is we really don't have a means to require somebody to tell us what their plan is. That's not within our purview to make that request. So that's why another reason this is just about getting the land into the city, and it is in our urban growth area. So it was intended at some point to become part of the city. That's what the urban growth area stands for. So, any other questions, comments from?
Yes, I have a comment. You know, we hardly ever have anybody show up, and we have people show up tonight. And I feel like I need to honor the fact that they don't know what's going on. And I imagine myself in looking through this, excuse me, that there's probably not very many people, if any, that know anything about this. And so I would certainly not like something like this if there was a bunch of land next to my house to plop in and I didn't know anything about it. I would want to, that doesn't mean I'm against it or for it. Mr. Fluger, I don't have to pronounce your name right. If it was just yours and you're going to build a house, got no problem. And nobody is worried about what you're doing. But I would vote no at this point. I will vote no at this point.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I think we're ready to take a vote. All those in favor of resolution 26/2025 establishing an intent to annex, please raise your hands. And we've got 5. All opposed? We've got Sharon. Okay, it's 5-1. It passes. We'll go on to our next action item, resolution 27/2025, adopting utility rates. Andy?
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight the council is being asked to consider approving resolution 27/2025, which is adopting our new utility rates. As you probably saw in here, this is generally the utility rates through 2029, but it is written in a way that we have the rates, I'll say indefinitely, with inflation factors. And the goal there is that way, once we've caught up before another utility rate study is completed, staff has direction on how to continue increasing those rates so that once we catch ourselves up, we stay up essentially. Otherwise, these are the rates that have been presented to you in the utility rate study that was accepted as complete in October by the council. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Motion,
Question?
make a motion now, right?
Sure, I entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 27/2025 adopting utility rates.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Travis. Now, any discussion, questions?
I'm still not in favor of the part with the water distribution.
What part, Sharon?
The water
The
distribution,
multifamily.
yeah, multifamily, who pays, I think,
per
something like
dwelling unit.
$27 a month for water. And residents pay, what is it, 72 or 92? I was looking for my piece of paper madly here. I should have kept it in my lap or something. So I'm opposed to that particular part of it. Probably I'd be okay with the rest of it, but not that one.
Questions, comments? Any from those in the audience? Online? Somebody coming up. State your name and address, please.
Ron Duncan, 224 Cascade Street. I agree with Sharon. It's egregious that the multifamily properties are so subsidized by the city on this because the rates are so much lower than a single family residences. It's almost to punish single family residences and encourage multifamily residences. It's not a little bit of difference. It's a lot of difference. And it makes no sense. The rate covers the cost to operate the system. And if we have four residences on one property and 4 residences on 4 properties, it's the same cost to operate the system. And there can't be the difference between, as Sharon was pointing out, $27 for one unit on a multifamily property and $79 on a single family property. Every month, that difference is not supported in any rational means except for encouraging those properties to not pay their share. So I totally agree with Sharon. She's spoken up every time this is coming up and gotten no traction on it. And it's important to recognize that this is social engineering. It is not based on costs to operate the water system. And it's wrong. It's wrong against all the single family residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Anybody else?
I'd like to make a point that it is literally in the numbers and it's indisputable that it's not social engineering. And it's a fair ask that multifamily housing pay that rate and single family pay the other. It's in the numbers. And if you don't understand it, that's fine. That's not the case.
It's in my pocketbook.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all for the question, all those in favor, let me see your hands. 5 in favor, all opposed. And again, Sharon. Passes 5-1. Next one is an ordinance 1718. And Chantel.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Council, every year we have to pass an ordinance in order to levy our property taxes. You did have your public hearing on the property taxes at our last meeting on October 28th. And I did review where we were at. One change has occurred since that hearing, and that is that the assessor's office did get back to me with an additional amount that can be added, and that is the amount that can be refunded. That amount came to $3,669.44. So in total, your allowable collection with new construction, there was no annexation, and then refund amount plus 1% would be a total of $781,387.61. The budget did call for $764,000, which was an estimate based on the 1% increase plus about $10,000 in new construction. And the new construction did come in at $29,000. So you would have got that extra money regardless of whether you do move forward with a 1% increase that you're allowed by law or not. 2 documents are in here. Even with the increase from the refund money, the $800,000 that is identified on the levy certification, which is the maximum allowable that we are identifying for the assessor's office to collect. I would not recommend a change to that. It does go from about 25,000 to about 20,000, but I've not seen it ever go up that much higher from these preliminary values after the assessor has provided this documentation. As you know, staff is recommending the 1% increase, as it does not nearly cover the 3 to 5% annual expenditure increases that do occur. And this is your general fund money that does pay for all of your public safety, police, fire, sheriff, jail, prosecution services, and all of those are well above $1 million for the city combined.
Chantel, does that refund information that you just provide, does that modify the increase value in any way associated with the 1% increase?
No, it does not.
Entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to adopt ordinance 1718 with the ad valorem tax increase of $7,422.80, which is an increase of 1% from the previous year, and authorizes the mayor to sign the tax levy certification.
Second.
Moved by Jan, seconded by Shane. Any other questions?
Just to note that this document has to be signed, unusual for an ordinance, by all of the council and not the mayor. The mayor signs the levy certificate.
Okay, all those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. And the Osborne Building asbestos abatement bid rejection. Andy.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight the council is being asked to reject all bids and authorize city staff to rebid the Osborne Building asbestos abatement project. So as was noted in the write-up, we sent this to 20 contractors on the small works roster. We received 3 bids, one of which was unresponsive. And so we're recommending rejecting these bids and rebidding the project. And as the write-up says, to encourage more competitive pricing and ensure compliance with bid requirements. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Entertain a motion.
Leavenworth City Council moves to reject all bids received for the Osborne Building asbestos abatement project and authorize staff to rebid the project.
Second.
Being cited by Clint. Any other questions, comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. And we have item 14, Leavenworth Fund that you have in front of you. Who's going to speak to that?
I can speak to it.
All right.
First of all, I'd like to start with a giant thank you to staff for helping the committee with this very extensive project. Selby worked hard on this, working with us on and review, but I will not be remiss if I don't say that Courtney extensively worked on this. We had an entirely new software program that we were working through this year for our grant review and processing, which was very, very helpful. But she really dug deep into the software to help the committee know and understand how to use it appropriately to our advantage. I know she spent countless hours getting this whole program up and running in that new software. So thank you, Courtney. I appreciate all of your time on this and helping our committee be successful in this process. The committee and the staff spent dozens of hours reviewing applications, scoring them accordingly to our process, and ultimately coming together in a meeting to land on awards for all of the applications that came in. Some were not given awards for various different reasons, but most did, and they were scored according to the rubric that we had set up with the application. So before you are all of the awards that we are recommending for approval for both lodging tax fund grants and our general fund grants within the overarching Leavenworth Fund. And hopefully you are willing to approve the granting of those awards this evening. Do you have any questions? Shane and I are here and happy to answer anything you guys have.
Hey, Courtney.
So this isn't all the requests, right?
No, these are just what we're awarding.
Well, no, there's a lot of them that aren't awarded.
All requests are. All the requests.
These are all the requests.
Yeah, you'll see some zeros there.
I see that. That's somewhere. I thought there were 300 or so more, but this is all of the ones that were.
$300,000 with 100. 75,000 available.
51 applicants,
51.
over 300K that was.
Okay, it's stuck on the three.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all
They
the
asked for a
applicants.
lot more than the money that we have.
Word is out. Okay, and some of these that were not awarded are nonprofits or just a couple of reasons. Let me go, each got a couple of them. I see, the Snowy Owl Theater upgrades. Were not awarded. Why? Because they're not a nonprofit or just they?
Oh, they are not, they are a nonprofit, absolutely.
Okay.
They are not within our boundary.
Okay.
Am I remembering that correctly?
No, I believe that we didn't award.
They were a lower, my name's Courtney, I'm with the city of Leavenworth, part of the Leavenworth Fund Committee. And that particular grant was one of the lower scoring within the lodging index.
Oh,
Don't
that's
ask anymore.
right.
Okay.
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
they were the bottom ones.
Okay.
We awarded according to score as well. So the ones with the highest score got awards.
So when it shook out, there's money, yeah, right, score. Okay.
Just because we couldn't award funds to every
There,
applicant.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still a $55,000 deficit, right? You still have $55,000, $860,000 left over.
No, not
No.
over.
No,
You spent more.
the far right award is the total money that we are awarding.
Request
So-
award. Gotcha. Okay, so award net zero. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve the Leavenworth Fund grant funding for use in 2026 as presented and authorizes the finance director to allocate the funding sources in the lodging tax fund and general fund as requested.
Second.
Moved by Tim, seconded by Travis. Any other questions, comments? Anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor, your hand. Passes unanimously. And that does it for our action items, council report, Sharon.
Well, I had very few things to attend and I didn't attend any of them
Okay.
due to my leg.
Yes.
Can't sit that long. This is hard now.
Correct?
No reports at this time.
Yeah.
The Economic Development Committee.
What were you doing?
But you know exactly what we're doing, so no other report.
See.
Yes, so I attended, the downtown steering committee did not meet as it usually does. This is sort of the ad hoc part that meets on occasion, just to get an update from Brantley, on what he's sort of the liaison with, folks who are doing the design. They would, basically, we just talked about type of services and pavers, and the fact of the challenge of heating the walkways and how to do that. And so possibly there's electrical or there's water with, I think it's glycol. And anyway, if we do opt for that, it's gonna require two different buildings, 600 square feet total for the boilers, and then also just the panels separate. So there's a lot involved with heating those papers and space. Where would this go? Because you're gonna try and heat all the way from Icicle Brewery up to Gustav's is basically where that's the area you're shooting for. So that's an issue that's out there. We got a parking report from Shannon. Basically, the simple one was that for September, all parking, which wasn't just fees on the kiosks and stuff, is also the long-term rental things we've got going. But September brought in $474,918. So it still continues. Parking still is bringing in the money we need to really make a viable case for building a parking garage and having the funding justification for it. Parking still remains really strong. And that's the end of my report.
I don't have much to report either, other than the Economic Development Committee funding. That's my.
It took a lot of time.
Thanks. Today was the Leavenworth Area Promotions Retreat all day at the Sleeping Lady. I just wanted, it was moment of clarity for me too, that the Chamber of Commerce and the Leavenworth Area Promotions are two separate things, right? The Leavenworth Area Promotions drives people to town. That's the advertising, and that's funded by the lodging tax and the county in part. And so the county is decided, they've changed their board and they're shifting, and they're not promoting Chelan County anymore outside of the drive time. LAX, they pulled out, they're not spending money on it anymore, which we've benefited from that. There's this whole looking at next year. I don't know what's going to be happening, and I'm sure you'll have discussion with Troy about that. So it's an interesting take on tourism in Chelan County in the next year, which is not just us, right? It's Manson, it's right, Chelan itself, right? So we stand pretty well on our own. I think they will suffer a little bit more than we will, not getting those promotions. So that was interesting. Troy, with the chamber report, some of the slides we went over this morning. Yeah, football is down, border traffic's down 40%. You saw recently. But overall, I think it's. I felt like town has been pretty decent the past couple of weeks.
But we had a significant smoke during that time, which I think.
Well, it's doubled, right? It's doubled. I mean, that's double dip. That's terrible. It's both that and what's going on politically. Right. You're right. There was smoke in September. I will say that the chamber's website did do a good job. They did activate their smoke. Don't come to town, or just they really saw a lot of people going to that and checking it, which was kind of cool as a supplement to what's going on in Leavenworth. So people don't get here and be surprised or disappointed. A disappointing time. Yeah. So. Tomorrow PRSA meeting, and that's all I have.
Great. Okay, well, I got back on the 3rd of November, and the 4th and 5th was at a retreat out at Sleeping Lady with the Wescosa Wenatchee tribe. It was moving beyond land acknowledgements, looking at other ways to involve and incorporate our first residents of our area. It was sponsored by Wenatchee River Institute and the Chelan Douglas Land Trust as well. It was a great group. The only two politicos there was the mayor of Wenatchee and myself. But both there was 3 superintendents of school districts there as well. Lots of nonprofits. Our good friend Jason was there as well. Anyway, it was great. I'm sure you'll be seeing some. Matt Cade was there from the museum, and again, we've heard from them about what they'd like to do with kind of creating a legacy piece down in the park for Wescosa. So I think that'll be something to move forward. And there's also a couple of other ideas on the table. But I did that, and then Monday of this week had our first Zoom call with area statewide tourism economy folks, looking at potentially again coming together with some legislation that we can all get behind and move forward. So it was a very productive first meeting. We'll be meeting monthly. There was 8 communities represented, and a couple of them that would have been there but couldn't on that time. So I think we've got a good core of communities interested in seeing what we can do to move some things forward. So that's my report.
Well, thanks, Mayor. I had a great vacation.
Where'd you go? You never told me.
I went to, like, I tiptoed into the Olympics. We just went to Sold Up Falls and stayed at Lake Crescent. And then we took the ferry over to Vancouver Island, spent a few days in Victoria. And then a couple nights at this in Shirley at this resort.
Nice.
Great time, very relaxing. Glad to be back. My only update for you is that, where did I lose it? We did receive restitution from Zachary Soltis, the gentleman who tore up the Front Street Park last year.
Nice.
So, or I guess it was this, no, it was last year. So Mr. Soltis did plead guilty to malicious mischief 2, which is a felony. In addition to paying the city restitution, he will conduct 20 days of community service by July. Not here, he'll be doing it in Texas. So
Felony 2 gets you community service?
that's instead of in lieu of jail time, he's doing 20 days of community service.
I wish we could get the community service.
Yeah.
Right.
How much restitution did he pay? Does it say?
$8,048, which was John Sean's estimate for the repairs to Front Street Park.
That's great. I
You
feel good
guys
about
pay
that.
for it. I would,
Yeah.
we got the community service rather
Yeah.
than Texas, but.
Yeah.
So that is my only update. Thanks.
Thanks, Toby.
And Cal?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick update on the pool loan. At the end of last month, we did dip into 71,000 that was necessary to keep it afloat. However, tonight you will see as your item 6 on your consent agenda, I am requesting the remaining $80,000 in property taxes for this year. So with that, we'll be positive about 9K. But I do anticipate probably close to $15,000 or $20,000 to get us through year end with salaries, wages on Vanessa, and then just base utilities for the pool. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have a loan at the end of the year, but it's not gonna be very big, and we will run through till April when we get more property taxes and see where we're at. PRSA tomorrow will be approving the property taxes, and it's an interesting process. Instead of having the forms filled out, typed in, which are form fillable cells that you cannot write words in or should have been. So they have mocked it up for us with the expectation to collect the full amount plus the 1/3 extra amount in next year.
Right, so we're not gonna screw it up this time, right?
She did it, so if it's back in front of you guys, it's her fault. No, I'm confident that Stacy has got this and is not gonna let anything go sideways.
All right, I just have a very quick update. We did meet with the planning commission last week, talked a little bit about the design standards that I brought to you all last month. And provided some of your feedback. I think we have a good working copy. We have at community engagement next week, we plan to have some designs, some visual preference surveys. There's a few boards up for people to like pick and choose what is Levin worthy and what is not, as far as residential designs. So we're hoping to get some feedback from that to move to the planning commission and hope to have a first initial hearing in December with the PC and then bring that forward to you as a council. So that's really exciting to see that move forward. That is in addition to the triplex standards. It's kind of a one big project. Gosh, anything else? I don't think I haven't had any other meetings, so that's all I have.
All right, Andy.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. I guess first, thank you for passing the utility rates. I know that's been about 1.5 year long conversation, and I'm really grateful to this council for taking this really historic step. Like Kara mentioned, we're going to start the education and outreach next week at the community engagement night. So volunteer and Chantel, I think Chantel and I will have a booth there where we'll be talking about the utility rates. And then just a couple quick staffing things. Ben Larson was hired as our new water resource recovery facility, wastewater. operator. So he's in our water group and was hired into wastewater to be our new operator there. And then we're still in the hiring process for our street and utility maintenance worker position, as well as our staff engineer 1 and 2. And that's all I have for tonight.
Hey. I think that means we're ready to.
I move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, let me see your hand. Yay, it's unanimous.
Don't forget the community engagement night next week.
Yep. Community
Copy
engagement.
that.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
So tomorrow.
Yes.